Excelente, etcétera.
Thrill me.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Flicks and Guitar Picks podcast. I'm your host, Tim, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Steven. What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Same as always, except for we're actually in spooky season, so it's perfect.
Oh yeah, I forget we're in video and you can't tell I have vampire fangs.
Hey, some people are watching on
It was-
YouTube, so they could see. So. But hey, you told the people that are listening, so there's a little bit of there's growth in your podcasting right there, man. You remembered the audio description, but no, hell yeah. Of course, and this week is your pick with Fright Night. I had to do the roll my R's because make my wife jealous because she can't do it. But I'm stoked to chat about the OG Fright Night. Of course, we're not talking about the remake or anything, the 1985, which I didn't even think about that until we were gonna talk about it. That it celebrated 40 years this year, which is fucking wild and awesome. But
Oh well, that's wild. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
I wore my Peter Vincent shirt that we did years back. It's an old one. It was a fun one-off design that we did. I don't even know. We maybe did one reprint of it and then never printed it again, but I always liked this one. But yeah.
no, I remember it being like insanely popular at the Scares the Care that we did together. Like,
Oh yeah.
I remember
And we didn't
people.
have like hardly any. And I was like, oh yeah, we should have made more.
Yeah, I
But
think y'all sold out of it like pretty quickly. I was gonna wear my Fright Night shirt, but I wasn't sure if you'd wear the Peter Vincent or the actual Fright Night shirt that you guys made. So I went with your Suspiria shirt because the color schemes are similar. So I was like, oh, it's at least
yeah.
a little bit similar. But and also I couldn't find it. I even tried to find it when you were looking for your phone thing, and I was like, oh fuck, I can't find it. So I just
All
kept
good.
rocking with Suspiria. But hell yeah, and of course I had to rep the Colts going 4-1. But uh, we're gonna dive into what we've been watching and then listening before diving into Fright Night. But of course, if you just want to hear us chat about Fright Night, there will be a timestamp in the description or show notes, wherever you're listening or watching. So definitely just click down there if you don't want to hear us chat about everything. But we did get to attend. I only got to attend the first day of the Halloween International Film Festival. You got to attend the entire thing this
Mhm.
past weekend, which was awesome. A perfect way to kick off October for sure, and just spooky season in general, which spooky season for us pretty much starts September 1st, but for everybody else it's like officially October 1st. But uh, we got to see two features and a bunch of shorts on the first night. The first feature being Group Chat, which the director and producer came over from London and watched it and did a Q&A with us and stuff, and well, not with us, but they did it for the crowd and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And no, that was super awesome. I actually really enjoyed that film. It was super fun. It's a screen life film for anybody that doesn't know, and it's kind of unique in a way of like and the reason I want to say it's kind of unique is because as soon as I say it's a seance on Zoom or something like that, people think of host, but it's not really a
Mhm.
seance. It's like them playing D&D and like the seance happens within D&D and stuff like that. So super
Yeah.
fun and unique. Definitely check that out when it comes out. Hopefully they get something like Shudder or somebody Screambox to release it. Screambox seems like the type of place that might grab something like that up. And then of course we saw Shell, which featured Kate Hudson and uh, Elizabeth Moss, which I was pleasantly surprised by because the ratings are shitting all
Mhm.
over this thing. And I'll be honest, dude, like I'm starting to think this might be like number 6 or number 5 of the year right now for
Mhm.
me, depending on just like where things go with some, still got some strong releases left for sure to come, like Five
Yeah.
Nights at Freddy's 2 is gonna be, no, I'm just kidding. That's just first popped in my mind because my kid is just like, he's loves Five Nights at Freddy. But as far as,
Sure.
but there's still just so much like actual good shit to come and stuff. Like even in, um, Dan, there's something that like kicks off in November that I know you and me are both stoked for. That right now I'm drawing a brain fart on, but it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But either way, there's a bunch of stuff still left to come the rest of the year. So it could easily back out completely out of the 10 or even be like at number 10 or number 9. But I just personally really enjoyed it. I expected it to be more of a rip off of The Substance than it was,
Mhm.
and it kind of almost played into like a campiness in a way that I didn't expect. So I think I just
Sure.
expect like when you see people like Kate Hudson and Elizabeth Moss that look similar but different in a way. I guess I
Mhm.
expected them to be like the same character or similar to like Elizabeth and
Sure.
stuff. And since it was just a lot more unique and just kind of uses it, just kind of plays on the same like messages and stuff that the substance does, of course. And there is some similarities, like the beauty or them using certain like processes to make themselves more beautiful and stuff like that, whether it's
Mhm.
completely changes them or just de-ages them a little bit and stuff. But I don't I'll be honest, there was no shorts that really stood out to me that first day that I really feel like are worth mentioning. And they were all fun, and I definitely
Mhm.
recommend going and looking at the program for anybody that just loves watching horror shorts and wants to find some new ones. But was there any shorts that stuck out to you, and do you want to mention like what you thought about those two films, as well as what else you saw that weekend since you were there for the rest of the fest?
Yeah, the first day, I feel like the shorts were, I mean, they definitely ramped up, in my opinion, what was the better offerings for the shorts
Yeah.
the following days. I don't know if there was anything explicitly stand out for me on Thursday. Um, but it was a good, I felt like it was a good cracking open the can of spooky. So, it started off right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I agree with you with Shell. I kind of feel like it's going to be a sleeper film, um, an underrated gem that probably is going to go kind of maybe unnoticed this year.
Yeah.
And I think exactly what you said about some of the like thematic comparison to the substance is probably what is hurting that movie the most, only because of how successful the substance was, that it's like almost impossible to um like not compare it. And then like how do you stack up against to the substance, especially like that soon after the substance has come out. So
Well, and
um
they both have a like make or break ending type thing where
sure,
it's
yeah,
like that could really
exactly,
like you could be on the fence about the movie and the ending can make you love or hate it without spoiling anything obviously, but
totally.
and so I can definitely see where that could have swayed some of the critics. You know what I mean? Definitely some of those films, a lot of those films that have those divisive endings. Usually, you look on the like Rotten Tomatoes or IMDb, and it's like the critic scores like in the 30, but then
Hmm.
the audience scores like in the 70s or 80s. So it's
Sure.
usually the audience that I look for with these types of films. But I'm with you. I think is one that's going to be a sleeper, only because. Like for us, we saw it at the fest, so it's going to feel like a 2025 film. But the way
Hmm.
that this is going to be released and all that, I feel like for a lot of people, it's going to feel like like an early 2026 film by the time it
Hmm.
actually like hits like wide
Yeah,
markets and all that stuff. So
when is it slated to actually hit? Do you
that
know?
I know it's supposed to hit somewhat in the next month or two,
Uh-huh.
but even then, it might be like if it's behind a paywall, it might take for it to actually become free
Yeah,
before like people start putting eyes on it and stuff. And
sure.
it at that point is when it might start getting like actually like popularity and this and that. So it might even not come out till this year. Let me see if I can look real quick. But if you want to talk
Mm.
about what do you think about group chat? And of course, didn't you like Cal, the short Cal?
Yeah, the cow was good. I just yeah, I'm a sucker for anything that dives into like the occult, a little bit, and I like the switch that it had, without giving away too much. I just thought it was an interesting concept. I liked, it follows a story about like a young couple. And they're like basically like travel rock climbing, vloggers, influencer type people. And I don't know. I think that world is super fascinating. So like I'm excited for more horror to like dive into those stories. It's to me it seems like an evolution of like where the found footage stuff is, could head. So that was fun. We missed some of the first one, which was Scratch, which was a rad werewolf short.
Yeah, I did enjoy
And
the what we saw of that.
yeah, and I think if you would have seen the first, 5 minutes that we missed, again, it's short, so there's not much. But I think that would probably be the one stand out for you as far as all the shorts. Um,
I did like the one
and-
about the daughter that had the date come over and it was like a prom date and the dad was downstairs talking to the prom date and then I don't want to spoil it, but I can't remember what it was called,
mm,
but it's pretty much like you had the mom upstairs having the conversation with the daughter while the dad was downstairs having the
oh
conversation with
yeah,
her date,
yeah, that
and
was
and then it
fun.
became something. But that one only stood out just because I like those little like dark humor twists at the end of
Sure,
small tales like
sure.
that. But
But yeah, and then group chat was fun. It was super rad. We went and had dinner with those guys. And yeah, they came all the way from London. This was their world premiere, so it was like first time showing it on the big screen, to a group of people. And so like pretty honored that they'd come all the way to Manio, North Carolina, middle of nowhere. But yeah, they were the nicest folks. And then unfortunately they had to fortunately for them, but unfortunately for us, they had to fly back literally the next day to go straight to another festival premiere in the UK. And then I don't know if you saw on socials, they ended up winning 4 awards at that festival. So, like huge congrats to those guys. Um, and yeah, they were awesome. They mentioned they would love to chat with us someday too. So maybe one day we'll see them on the pod, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun. It was a nice like you said, kind of like fresh take on the whole live stream kind of webcam horror. And then I've been playing D&D lately with my friends, so that was cool. Like I got to like kind of nerd out a little bit for there, and I was like, I understand this world. And I'll touch base on that. The one character that played Malcolm, who was like the like goblin troll guy with the hood,
The older guy.
and
Yeah.
the older guy in character, dude was giving me hardcore McDowell vibes as Peter Vincent, like to a certain degree. And so I didn't get to talk to them about him, but like that was my favorite character in that whole feature. But yeah, so it was fun. I mean, a solid first night. I mean, the Pioneer Theater in Manio is a historic theater. It was made in like 1918. Somebody there told me it's like the oldest running historic theater in America, I think, or something crazy stat like that, which I had no clue.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was fun. But yeah, and then I know you missed the rest of it, but our buddy Phil came in from the Spook House podcast, and met up with me on Thursday, and he was there through Saturday. Um, Friday was a kind of a crazy night downtown because they had their first Fridays, and so it was like all the art galleries and everything was going on. It was like the kickoff of all the like Halloween festivities for the town. It legit felt like, I mean, because there's pumpkins everywhere and the town was decorated. It's a cute little downtown walking district.
Yeah.
It really felt like I needed that for my soul, to be perfectly honest, because it felt like officially Halloween season had started. And you kind of said like September 1st is usually, but dude, I've been so busy with life and soccer and trying to run businesses and stuff like that like I haven't had a chance to like breathe and enjoy the season for myself. And I kind of like was like, okay, like I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like I'm getting the endorphins that I need and all the serotonin. This is nice. So yeah, shorts were good that year. It was all like kind of witch theme shorts on Friday. One of the shorts was cool to see because my friend Adam and his wife Callie, um, we know them from doing shows for Toxic Coffin,
Oh yeah.
and he does Adam's art box. He does these the two illustrations, the Stranger Things illustrations behind me. He did those.
Oh yeah.
So it's cool to see him and his wife. And I know they act and they do some things, and I was just like, instantly like, the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Like, I know him. And so that was super rad. It was a fun little witchy like tale and short. Honestly, all the shorts were pretty strong. Friday, there was one that's my absolute favorite, and like I don't want to spoil it because it is just so purely simple. But it's this short called Witch. It's literally 5 minutes long. I hope it's on YouTube or somewhere soon for you guys to watch it, but it is it is the most amazing thing ever. And even like one of the guys that was there, one of the directors, like afterwards, um, he said he like immediately texted or called like one of his agents or somebody in there, and he was just like, "Oh my God, I just saw the most brilliant thing I've ever seen in a long time. Like it just blew everything out of the water as far as the shorts go."
Yeah.
Uh, but it's and again, I can't say anything about it anymore other than it's witchy. But it's just so clever and tongue in cheek that you'll love it.
And it's spelled for the because you it's called witch, but it's spelled
Uh,
WHITCH, right? Doesn't have an H, and wasn't it spelled
to,
weird?
to be perfectly honest, I don't know. Um,
Because I think I
Let
remember
me see.
seeing the
I'm looking
like
at the list. Um, oh yeah, it is. Huh. I'm so bad at spelling. Like it, it just went right over my head. When I was in college and I had to take like, I went to art school, so I didn't have to do a lot of like general education stuff. But specifically remember one of my writing classes, like our professor separated us in groups and we would like share our papers and proofread the other person's. And like the homie would give me my paper back and there'd be so many markings. I'd be like, oh my gosh, you're awesome. Thank you so much. And he's like, man, you didn't really mark mine up. And I'm like, yeah, it's good. I didn't find anything because I'm so bad at finding that kind of stuff. So, anyways, stick to
Perfect
colors and
grammar.
shapes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those shorts were fun. I think the first shorts were all like Halloween themed. There was a funny one called Looking for Michael, which was like uh this dude walking around Chicago. It was filmed super like Sony Handycam, like made to be like bad on purpose kind of thing. And it's just him walking around and it's narrated by him the whole time talking about like, like, oh yeah, I'm in Chicago and like, and he's like trying to find Haddonfield and he's like goes to a store and the guy's like, that doesn't exist. It's just a movie thing. And he's like, I know these things are make 'em ups and like, but like, I just think it's rude to tell people that like these movies aren't real, And it's just him like obsessing over Michael Myers and the shape. It was silly. Um, and then yeah, had the Haunted House of Pancakes was the first feature, which was the best way I could describe that movie is set in a diner. It's like um Evil Dead meets Maximum Overdrive and shit, what else? There was something else that I was comparing it to, but it is just like a gonzo creature practical effects film of people fighting breakfast foods that have been reanimated and it's so good. It's so fun.
Oh, yeah.
So it's worth a watch if you can find that one. And then the final feature was Haunt Season, and it was directed by this guy Jake Jarvie, which got to hang out with him a bunch, and that was just a slasher, haunt type themed feature, which I thought did it in a nice, clever way. There's been a couple movies in the past that we've had. Haunt was one. I'm trying to think, what was the other one at the theme park? Was it Hellfest or something like that?
Yeah, there's
Do you remember
Hellfest,
that?
and then
Yeah,
there was two in the same year. There's Hellfest and then
yeah,
Bloodfest because they kept making
yeah.
jokes about Blood Feast, and
Yes,
he was
that's
like,
right.
no, that's Herschel Gordon Lewis. We're like, we get it, kid. You're a horror fan. Fuck off.
Yeah, and then it was like the next year Haunt came out,
Yeah, which actually was
uh,
good. Out of the three, in my opinion,
yeah,
was probably the best.
Hellfest was okay for like but yeah, I agree. Um, but this one, Haunt Season, to me, that one's better than all three of those.
Hell yeah.
And it had a lot of heart and soul and
And it's out on
um,
Tubi for if you're listening. It's already out. Like
mm,
you can go watch it right now on Tubi.
yeah.
They showed an uncensored version was like the special.
Oh yeah, it was very much uncensored, which was pretty funny. I had some funny stories about that. But I felt like Haunt Season kind of gives you more of the perspective of working in a haunt more so than just visiting one. And I did that in college, so like it kind of spoke to me on a different level for sure, and it felt pretty accurate as far as like what that culture was like. And then yeah, so Saturday was the last day, and again another strong series of shorts. The first block was a little bit less strong, but then the second block of shorts was all very like Halloween themed. And it just was nice and spirited. And then the two features, they had The Curse of Crom 2, and then and the final feature was Devour, which I got to chat with the directors of that movie. They're Virginia Beach people now in Atlanta, and they're crushing it. And Devour is one of the most insane films I've seen in a very long time. It's insanely fun. So when that comes out, definitely go check it out. It'll leave your jaw on the floor for sure. But the premise that it starts out with is like this band of, badass vampire babes and literally a band.
The
They're in this
Virginia
sick,
bitches.
the Virginia Bitches, yeah,
Yeah.
and they're in this sick metal band. It's the same people that did oh my God, is it Bad Candy? Am I getting that name right? Holy crap.
I
Let
think
me
that's
double.
I think that's the one that has Corey Taylor that I
Yes,
was talking about.
yep, they did Bad Candy. Yep.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it's part of a similar lore that takes place in New Salem, Virginia, which is a fictional town that they've created. So they're kind of like creating this universe for themselves, which is cool to see. And then the kid from Righteous Gemstones that plays the young Jesse Gemstone, Danny McBride's character. He is an actor in this, and he's so freaking funny. He was supposed to come to the event, but naturally he's talented, and he got booked up and couldn't make it. So I was kind of looking forward to meeting him and just asking him 1,000 questions about Walton Goggins. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean that was it, man. Like I feel like the event kind of went by in a flash, and just had a killer time. I hope it happens next year. Definitely a standout. So
Hell yeah. Now I was supposed to come Friday for those listening and I couldn't make it because my son got sick. So I'm definitely bummed because I wanted to see Haunt Season. So I might actually end up watching it tonight. I was gonna watch it when I came home. Uh I was gonna watch it that night because I ended up, because I wasn't
mm,
coming, and then because he wasn't going to sleep, I was like, I don't want to risk watching something that might have something.
sure.
I don't. I let him watch a lot of stuff that he probably shouldn't see, but I definitely want to see it first. You know what I mean? Like I don't
Sure,
let him watch
sure.
anything I haven't seen. Uh, so I might watch it tonight for sure. But I looked up Shell, and it is actually already out. And not only is it
Oh,
already
what?
out, yeah, I'm telling you, they're gonna do this. They're gonna botch this movie, and it's not gonna get like, it's gonna get respect at a weird time. I feel like because
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it's out right now. You can't rent it on Amazon, but you can buy it for 18.99. And apparently it
Ah,
released on October 3rd. And I'm like,
what?
so that's what I'm saying. It's gonna take for it to become free on Hulu or free on Tube. It's gonna take something like that before
Yeah, that's
it
wild.
it gets the surgence it needs. I was gonna say resurgence, but it has to surge
Yeah,
first before it gets.
dude, that's crazy. I mean, I had no clue about the movie until, the film festival. Matt was
Same.
like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this premiere," and I'm like, "I've never heard of this." So like the marketing and promotion for it was terrible. I
Yeah.
wonder if they just lost faith of it and they're like, let's not put any more money in this. So who knows? Hollywood's weird. So
Yeah. If it was physical media, I'd pay 18.99 for it. I just won't pay it for a digital copy, but
yeah, I have a hard time stomaching that. Although I did buy Friendship. I had to. I was just like, nope, I need this. So,
the only
but
reason I didn't is because I knew because it was A24, I knew it would be
mm,
on HBO Max pretty soon because they have like a deal with them.
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
but I do
So,
want to get the Blu-ray though sooner or later. But hell yeah. Anything
mhm.
else that you saw other than, the stuff you saw at the fest? And of course, do you want to go ahead and shout out the music stuff that you might have I know you went to a cool concert
Mm,
as well as, if there's any new music you've been listening to.
yeah, as far as new music, there is a new Castle Rat album that came
Fuck yeah.
out.
Perfect time for
And
some Castle Rat, dude. Fucking
dude, yeah,
October.
I've been jamming out to that. It's good. I feel like the first album, I was just talking to my buddy. He went and they were playing in Charlottesville during the film festival, so I was kind of bummed I couldn't do both.
Yeah.
So he went and saw him. He said it was epic. He said it was exactly what you would expect it to be. And but yeah, the new album's rad. And he's like, I feel like it doesn't have as many bangers as the first one has, but I feel like maybe it's just more balanced than the first one. The first one feels like a bunch of singles thrown into an album, whereas this one feels like a full conceptual, like front to back, album. So
There's
I,
a
I
flow
like it for
to it,
that.
kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, there's way better flow and because there's some like super stony, like, slower parts and stuff like that. They do more of that, but yeah, it's fun. I like it. And been listening to the new AFI album. Um, I'm very happy with this direction that Davey Havok's going, and his whole new look and whatever. I feel like they're finally making music for the age that they are. It feels like post-punk, like Killing Joke, like, kind of that new wave post-punk goth shit that I want to listen to all the time. And I'm
Hell
like,
yeah.
yeah, do that. I don't need freaking, early 2000s emo AFI. Like I don't have that teenage angst. I just want it to be dark and moody and have a nice hook to it and catchy, but yeah, it's fun. It's like a happier Final Gasp, if you will, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Um, so that's pretty good. And then yeah, I saw Turnstile. I guess a week or two. I don't, dude. The weeks have been. I've been so busy. And that was sick. Turnstile was epic. Speed was freaking brutal as hell. That guy is amazing. He's maybe my favorite frontman. That dude has so much energy. It's insane.
Yeah.
Um,
And they switch
and
up
then
instruments the whole time they're playing. If I'm not, do they still do that? Where they're like, next thing you know, somebody's playing
uh,
drums and that guy's playing
maybe I was
guitar
so
and
zoned in on the singer because he
yeah,
was so like his raw power as far as like being a hype man. Like, dude needs to like be the MC for like a monster truck show or like NASCAR because he just is or wrestling. He is just like he could command an army. The
right.
funniest thing was it was at Browns Island in Richmond and they they have like a barricade for like general admission, and then we were in the rapid section because I was just like, this is probably the one and only time I'll get to see Turnstile before they're just doing arenas and stuff like that. So I'm like, I'll spend some more money to get close.
Yeah.
And but he kept, because they're violent speed,
Yep.
and he kept being like, everybody come forward because there's a little bit of a gap, and he kept getting mad that nobody would come forward, and he just sounds like the meanest guy you would never want to meet. And then you know then he just flips and is like, oh, is there like a reason why you guys can't come up here? And they like all point to like their wristbands and stuff like that, and he's like, I am so sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel bad that you can't come up there. I hope you guys are enjoying it back there. I wish you could come up here, but I understand. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to put you on blast. So it's really funny just to have that flip. Um, yeah, so it was a great night. And then I got pepper sprayed, kind of. Everybody's been talking about the turnstile pepper spray. Lance and I were there. We were like four or five bodies behind the front barricade where the person got pepper sprayed. And it was on the last song. And it was like, we're in the chaos and moving all over, and like all of a sudden we're just like coughing, and it just tasted. It was like I took a mouthful of wasabi, and I was just like, "What happened?" And Lance is like, "The air is spicy. What's going on?" And then we're like, "Oh," and people are like, "We got pepper sprayed," and then security was like, "Get out!" Because it was like the end of the song, so it was kind of just like, "What?" So yeah, and then the internet exploded over it. So yeah,
Yeah.
but
Way to end the show for sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Fucking no, hell yeah. No, that's
so
awesome. And what's crazy about Speed is they're all buff as fuck because they lift weights like
yeah, oh
constantly,
god,
but the not a single one of them is over 5'6", I don't think.
no,
Like I've
no,
when I was at This Is Hardcore, like that's one of those, it's a fest, so everybody's just walking around chilling and
uh,
stuff like that. And that's when I saw them was there, and literally like they were all walking around, and I was like, oh dude, like hell yeah, like they let kids in. I was like, no, I'm just kidding. I say that, but they'd probably all kick my ass if they're
oh, holy
listening. But
shit. Yeah.
I
I don't want to fight that guy.
no, I almost had their guitar player on, like the actual
Oh,
the
cool.
real big
Yeah.
guy, but he like literally they're so big, they're always touring. He was like, dude, I'm
Yeah.
down, and then like a week later was like, sorry, like I'm gone for 3 months, like I'll let you know, like so it just was one of those. I was like, I'll wait for y'all to take a break. Like
Yeah.
next time you're all like, we're taking a hiatus, so I'm like, oh, let me jump in
Yeah, I
here.
think good for them. They're riding like this wave of popularity. So I'm stoked that they're, just trucking on. So that's good for them. So
Yeah, and they're like, I don't want to use this band as an example because of like there's tragedy there, but uh
sure.
Power Trip, like I love Power Trip, but there was such a big gap between Manifest Decimation and
Hmm.
I can't remember the name of that album, the one with the
Oh,
Executioner's X and
yeah.
Nightmare Logic. Is
Yes. Yes.
so there was such a big gap between that record, but Power Trip was constantly touring and touring and touring, but they just sat on Decimation for so long. But I'm like, Speed has put out like 3 albums in these few years since they blew up on one,
Mm,
like they blew up on one song. They've already put out like 2 albums. They have another one on the way, and they're touring all at the same time. And I'm not saying that's a knock. I'm definitely not saying they're as good as Power Trip. They're definitely can't hold a candle to Power Trip in my opinion,
sure.
as far as music goes. But but it's also just different styles of music. But I'm just saying,
Totally.
like, it's just crazy how like some of these bands, like back in the day, even another one that I like from back in the day, Rude Awakening, like they put out like one solid EP and just played the fuck out of that EP and played toured like crazy and stuff like that. And it's like I really respect these guys that come out nowadays and just feel like don't there's no label like pressure either. They're just pumping out albums
Hmm.
because they like they're writing them like that's part of their enjoying it. Like they're like, if we're
Sure.
gonna keep doing this, we're gonna like keep pumping out music and not just like ride one album for the hype as long as we can. So no, and that's how you keep it from dying. You know what I mean? Like if your hype dies because you don't put something new out. You know what I mean? Like honestly, that's why I feel like almost every single person I talk to about the new Turnstile record says the same exact thing. It's good, but it feels
Mm,
like they literally put something out to like so they didn't lose the hype of the last record because like
totally.
this new record's good, but it literally feels like just an like an attachment to the last record. So it's
It
like
doesn't have quite the punch for
yeah,
sure.
and it's just a lot of the same feel without like
Mm,
feeling like exactly recycled songs. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
and again, I'm saying it's a good record, but like the one before it, Glow On, was like a lot of people's top record of the year, and I feel like a
Oh
lot of those
yeah.
same people won't even put this in their tops of the year, maybe like bottom of the
Mm.
10 or whatever. But hell yeah. So, anything
I
else you want
was
to shout out
psyched.
before? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I was psyched. They did play three songs from Step to Rhythm, which I
Oh,
didn't expect that. I thought they were gonna like play. They didn't even play Gravity, which I was like, oh, they're gonna play Gravity. Like, of course they are. But yeah, they didn't. They didn't really play a lot of the like anything from Nonstop Feeling. I think there was um one song from, gosh, why can't I think? It doesn't matter. But yeah, yeah. So Step to Rhythm, three songs. I was stoked. So,
fuck yeah.
um, but
No,
yeah, yeah.
that's a
Like,
reason. Like I'd like to see them, but at this point, it would have to be like them being on a bigger tour or something. Because I
mm,
saw them back in like the Pressure to Succeed days at like United Blood and throughout the
yeah.
year. Like almost every time they put out a record, like I saw them. So like they put that out. Saw like right after the. I think when I saw them, they just put out Step to Rhythm actually. So like, but
Okay.
but all they had was Step to Rhythm and Pressure to Succeed. So it was two EPs. So like they could play both
Sure.
and still have one set. So.
Yeah.
So I got to see like pretty much all that stuff, and then as they put out Nonstop Feeling a song, and then they put out that like Move Through Me EP and shit, and
Yeah.
so it's like I've seen them every record pretty much, and now and then Glow On, I saw them on that Blink 182 tour, so I even got to see some Glow On shit, and I was supposed to go to the Glow On tour, and I got COVID, and my wife had to go without me and stuff. I was so bummed
Oh,
because I was honestly more bummed because that would have been my first time seeing Ceremony, and so I got
oh
to
shit.
I
Yeah.
missed Ceremony,
They're
but
good. I saw
right.
them in Philly once. But yeah.
No, yeah, I'll pretty much just move through the stuff I watched and listened to real quick because so we can jump into Fright Night. But
Sure.
um, most of my stuff's non-horror. The only horror stuff I've watched, Mutilator 2, honestly, hot garbage. I was so
Mm,
bummed because I'm a huge fan. Like, I literally have like several posters signed by Bud Cooper. I have the 7 inch up there behind the critter. You can kind of barely see it, the silhouette of it. I love Fall Break, aka the first Mutilator. It's fun and I'm a little proud of it. I don't know if you are. We're being
yeah.
from North Carolina and stuff like that. It's nice to have like a slasher from here and stuff like that. So.
Hmm.
No, definitely. And of course, we got I Know What You Did Last Summer, but that's a
Yeah.
more polished movie where it's fun to have
Sure.
that like grimy slasher. So, now we have what Night Watcher or whatever from Virginia Beach. I don't know. We'll find we'll cover that
Oh,
eventually.
dude.
But
Yeah, that movie is crazy.
yeah, I don't even know. It's like Night Walker or some shit. But we'll definitely have to cover
Oh
that
shit.
as
Yeah.
part of like a like a shitty movie month or something. But
Mm.
uh, and then we can even go visit some of the locations.
Dude, that would be so funny. Yeah, actually,
uh,
I love that.
and then I saw VHS Halloween. I fucking loved that, dude. It was like
I've been
I
hearing praise.
I
Yeah.
did not like Beyond at all really last year.
Hmm.
The only whole segment I liked of that whole thing was the Stork, which was by Jordan Downey, who did Thanksgiving, and it's
Hmm.
like the first one where they like go in the house and like find all the babies and stuff. And everything else after that was just garbage in my opinion.
Yeah.
Except for maybe the one where the plane crashes into like the apple orchard, just because it's so like fast paced and fun.
Sure.
But I don't know. I just didn't really like that one. It wasn't as fun as like 99 and 85 and all those ones that were coming out before it. So I was glad to see this one come out. And this one is probably one of my favorites. Like it's so hard for me to like I don't ever want to say it's like my favorite like since this one or this one because it's been so long since I've watched like certain ones. And
Sure.
they all have so many like different even this one, I'll be honest, like watching the first half because I watched it in halves because we watched the first half of it and then the UFC fights started. So we started watching like the
Hmm.
UFC fights and then I woke up like the next morning at like 5 a.m. and just finished it because I was like, I want to see how it finishes. And but like when we stopped it, the first half, I was like, I don't know, like this might not be it. But that second half, I was like, that second half
Hmm.
was so good that I was like, dude, like I want to watch this again before October's over. So no, I really like VHS Halloween.
Uh,
Boulay Brothers Dragula premiered today technically at like midnight this morning or whatever. Me and my wife woke up at
Mm,
5 a.m. this morning to watch that
mm,
before I went to work. So we got to watch our season premiere of Dragula. Shout out. I'm going for Eva Destruction for anybody listening that watches Team Eva Destruction. Uh
mm.
and and then the only other horror thing that I watched was Monster, the Ed Gein story. I watched like the first 5 episodes. I don't hate
How
it
is
as
it?
much as everybody, but I definitely was expecting a lot of dramatization already. And I feel like a
Hmm.
lot of people were hoping, oh, maybe we'll get something. I think a lot of people think Dahmer was more accurate than it really was. Like
Yeah, I don't think it was.
his neighbor, like that character was two people molded into one, and like a
Mm,
lot of stuff that happened in that show happened like years apart, and they made it seem like within 2 weeks. Like I don't know, there's
sure.
just a lot of stuff that happened in the Dahmer series that I think that people just we've heard the Ed Gein story so much more that it's like and it is a little bit more dramatized, I will say, than Dahmer. But because I already knew that that's what Ryan Murphy does, is he like makes everybody sexy and he like
Yeah.
he like changes the way things happen. And so I'm just enjoying it for what it is. So I don't hate it. And there's some like really interesting stuff that um they kind of go into like a little bit of the movies that were inspired by Ed Gein, and so you get to see like some
Mm,
really cool like stuff within that I
that's cool.
really enjoy without like spoiling too much of what you actually get. Uh,
Sure.
but so I recommend it, but I also understand why people don't like it because if you're a purist and you want something that's accurate and this and that, I definitely get it. But if you're just watching it as a series that's like that took Ed Gein as a character, because I mean he still does like I've seen people say that they're glorifying him or like sexualizing him. I'm like, no, he's still fucking gross
Yeah.
and creepy. Like there's no, if you're thinking he's sexy, that's on you. Like that's like the same thing with people saying Freddy Krueger's sexy. Again, no, he's not. That's on you. That's fucking dude.
They
Little
just can't
kids.
get over it being Charlie, what's his last name? Hannon or what how do you say his
Um,
last name? Yeah.
yeah,
They just can't get over him.
but
But anyways,
so no, I don't hate it, but I definitely understand the hate. But
sure.
and then I've been watching Peacemaker, which is the only thing non-horror. I said it, I had a bunch of non-horror stuff, but it's just because I have actually
Yeah.
like three music things to mention real quick. But I'll be real quick about those. But Peacemaker season 2 has been absolutely incredible. I'm like, it's one of the
Cool.
few shows that like. At first, I was like, "Oh, I'll catch up as it comes on." But like after I hit like episode 3, it was like I have to watch this like the day it comes out because I cannot like risk spoilers. Like and
Hmm.
and like these last two episodes have been insane, and they already teased that the finale was going to be in like crazy and like lead up to the sequel to Superman, and I could definitely see it being like insane. So I'm excited for this to the day that this episode drops is the same day that well, technically it'll be the day after the Peacemaker episode drops, but it drops at like
Hmm.
9 p.m. Eastern, so it's not like it drops early or something like that. But so I'm super stoked for Peacemaker to finish up, and definitely if you're a fan of Peacemaker and a fan of the show, reach out and let me know what you guys think of Peacemaker because it's
Hmm.
awesome. But just some music stuff I've been listening to. My boys in Atomic Roll. I say my boys, but pretty much my buddy Travis, who used to be in Eternal Sleep. He has a new band with Andy from Every Time I Die, as well as
Yeah.
a couple other dudes, Kevin from used to be in Acacia Strain and stuff like that, and
Hmm.
James from Cabin in the Woods Studios from up in Richmond. They have a new band called Atomic Roll, and they put out a 3-song EP called Skull Crushing Force, and it is fucking excellent. It's very much like I don't even want to even try to like say what kind of style it is, but it's just it. I think it's like one thing I like about them is it's like for everyone. Like if you like the heavy stuff, you
Hmm.
can get into it. If you like the more just like laid back style, you can get into it. So definitely check out Skull Crushing Force by Atomic Rule. And then on the heavy side, Peeling Flesh put out a new record to get ignorant to. It's called PF Radio 2, I think. It might be 3, but I think it's 2. But either
Hmm.
way, they put out a couple PF radios, and this new one is fucking excellent. It's everything you want from a Peeling Flesh record. And then another band that I've been listening to called Adversary and Fleshed. Uh, they have songs called like Anal to Corpse, something like that. Like they like all their
Sick.
songs have like shit like cum rot and shit like that. So they
Yeah,
have like
yeah.
all, but they're so good. Like that's a band I picked up again from shout out to the Bad Taste video dudes, Mike and Grizz. It was part of their Wide World of Metal, and I've been listening to the fuck out of some Adversary and Flesh. So trying to get some of those guys on the show, but
That'd be fun.
they're one of the few bands that like all of them want to come on.
Mm.
Which I like. It's been a while since I've had like more than one member of a band,
Yeah.
because like I always offer, like whoever, but usually it's just one to make it work and easier.
Mm.
So hopefully we can make it work and actually can get the full band on because that'd be fun to have like an actual full band again because they, they always talk within each other and you get like a little bit more like
Hmm.
comfort within the conversation because they're so used to each other, you know what I mean? So than just talking straight to a stranger and stuff. So
Oh yeah. Have you ever seen that video of the it's Cannibal Corpse and like there's the security guards, like the bouncers by the stage, and they're just listening to the vocalist being like, "This next song's about shooting blood out of your cock," and they're just like, "Oh, what?" It's
he's
just
like,
this big. You're like, "I don't know about this. I don't know what I signed up for." It's so good. That's what that made me think of. But yeah, hell yeah, dude.
can't relate.
Nope, cannot.
This song ain't for
But
me, bro. No, yeah. But no, of course we can dive into Fright Night. This was your pick. Of course, we both kind of wanted to go with some of our favorites that we like to
mm,
revisit during spooky season. Do you want to go with, let me know why this, was your pick for
sure.
October, as well as, what do you remember your first time seeing Fright Night?
Yeah, so the first time I saw it was I was in college, and it was like kind of the beginning of like Netflix adding more stuff to streaming. Like I was still getting DVDs from Netflix.
Yeah.
And they were starting to add horror more to like available streaming. And it just happened to be on that. And I'd honestly, I had zero clue about this movie. Um, I went through, I mean, like college was my like horror deep dive. Like it's where I saw like everything from Evil Dead to like all the Romero films and I got into like J horror and stuff like that. So I was like into everything and then kind of, was starting to go down that rabbit hole of like what are all the 80s films that I just never saw.
Yeah.
And yeah, it popped up and I was just like, man, this sounds fun. I literally watched it and then after it was over, I was like, oh my gosh, like this instantly like jettisoned to like one of my favorite movies of all time. Uh so yeah, I watched it on my couch in college and just it blew my mind. It's in my opinion, I know we'll talk about ratings and stuff like that. It is 100% my favorite vampire film. Um, I mean, Lost Boys is special to me, but it's so much. Lost Boys to me is so much more of this, like, in my opinion, like a flashy, glamorous look at like the 80s and the rocker, style and all of that. Whereas like something about Fright Night, like I just truly resonated with all of the characters, like you know, uh the Charlie's character, like I don't know, like he wasn't like your typical like macho, type that, high school guy or jock or whatever. I mean, he wasn't anything fancy. And I just like, oh, like I know this kid. Like I'm like that guy more.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I just love the movie. I mean, and then Jerry Dandridge, like his vampire presence is so good. The score is amazing. The special effects blew my mind the first time I saw it. I was just like, this movie gives you everything, and it's such a cool love letter to like the Hammer era of horror. Like the older eras of horror. So I feel like it's like an 80s film that does such a good job, like making you feel like the atmosphere of the classics too. So there's just so much to love about it, and yeah. Anyways, I could gush on, and I will continue to gush on and on about this movie. But yeah, what about you? When's the first time? When did you see it for the first time?
Very similar. It was kind of like in my mid 20s. I was probably a little bit further along, maybe like 25, like the in between 25 to 30 is really when I had like my resurgence
Mhm.
of like not resurgence, but like that's when I
Yeah,
really started to dive into that stuff that I missed because like when I became a horror fan, it was like when in my early teens, but it
yeah,
was one of those things I was just watching what was new. I wasn't like nobody ever really like showed me like these great horror films from the 80s other than like the ones like you mentioned, like I grew up on The Lost Boys. I grew up on Creep Show. Like
Mhm.
those are ones that I was like these must be gems of the 80s, you know what I mean?
Sure, sure,
I didn't
totally.
realize that the 80s was full of like because other than that,
Mhm.
I was watching other stuff that I was like, "Oh, this is like I have a lot of favorite films from the 80s. Like my favorite film of all time is Back to the Future. I love Dream a Little
Mhm.
Dream. So like I've always loved 80s films, but I just didn't realize that horror in the 80s was so good because like I just never had that horror fan in my life. So that was pretty much like when I had that same thing where I was like, oh shit, like I started seeing like one of my favorites of all time, Reanimator and like stuff like that. Like all that I saw within the same pocket of time and started finally watching all the sequels I missed, like all the Texas Chainsaw sequels and
Mhm.
Phantasm and shit. So and this was one of the films that I immediately wanted to see because Fright Night, like you've always heard the term Fright Night. I mean, even like
Yeah.
Budweiser back in the day would use like
Yeah.
Fright Night like as like a slogan and stuff. So um, I always like heard the term, saw the stuff, and even like your pillow in the back,
Mhm.
that movie poster is
Oh
so
my gosh.
iconic. You see it
So
everywhere,
cool looking.
yeah, and it's fucking yeah, and it's epic too. So it's always stood out like when I saw that, like, and I definitely remember seeing that box art in the VHSs back in the day and stuff. So it just never drew my attention because I was like scared of it. I was like, oh fuck, that one's scary.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I finally watched it, and I wouldn't say I had the same reaction. Like this one to
Mm.
me didn't shoot up to be my favorite. Like Lost Boys is still my favorite vampire film. This one probably for me is number four. I was literally thinking like earlier today, like
Mhm.
without giving away my rating, because I'm sure eventually we might do a top five vampire films. And if I had
Sure.
like truly dove into every vampire film, that might change up my mind. But as of right now, I think the only three I hold above it are The Lost Boys, From Dusk Till Dawn, and damn it, what's it called? Let the Right One In. Uh,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
yeah. So and like because like Near Dark for me like isn't even in my top five. Like I do not like the main character. I feel like he's like very boring
Yeah.
and shitty. I love Lance Hendrickson and Bill Paxton, but they're in the movie for like all of 25 minutes actually being fun. For the other 25 minutes, the other parts that they're in the movie, they're being assholes and like actually bad
Mhm.
people because that's what they're supposed to be. And so it's just like there's not much to enjoy in that film except for like all of 15 minutes in my opinion. But
Sure.
uh so like for me, like my top five would be rounded out actually by the original Dracula. So
Okay.
so like I put this over that, but only because of like it's fun, you know what I mean? Like where the original Dracula is
Sure.
probably a better film than all of them. But no, I really enjoy this film. I'm with you. Steve Johnson's effects, and this is like one of the things that really stand out to me. Like this was the
Mhm.
first time I remember because like growing up, we've mentioned on recent episodes where you guys are watching Buffy, and growing up,
Mm.
like Buffy and Lost Boys are kind of like what I was used to with vampires, like a slight like anger face, but like not too much of an alteration, kind of just like a brow and some teeth and
Yeah.
that was about it. So like this was the first time I remember like honestly even in my 20s this was probably the first time I saw vampires that were creatures and I was
Yeah.
like other than Nosferatu, you know what I mean? But that's a little different and
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this fucking rules. Like I just love the thought of making vampires more of a monster, you know what I mean? And like the stuff that they
Mhm.
like lean into with the lore and like almost like the whole thing with like to kind of jump forward without, skipping anything because of course we'll go back and forth and this and that, but like Evil Ed being a wolf for that
Mhm.
one scene, like all that stuff where they like become animals and like I just love all the lore that's used and the way that they use that for practical effects. Like I remember like the scene where Evil Ed gets like the thing stabbed in him and like it
Mhm.
shows the wolf like
Oh yeah.
pawing. Like my wife was like, "This is off-putting. Like this looks so real right now," and I was
Oh,
like,
that scene
"Practical effects."
is so like so intense.
Yeah.
Like because I rewatched it last night. Just I was like, how I've watched this movie a million times now. Um, it's probably one of my most rewatched films. But yeah, that scene. I mean, I feel for evil in that scene every time. I feel for Peter Vincent because it's like he's realizing he just killed a young boy, and he's like coming to terms with how sad it is, and his death in that, well, pseudo death in that is,
Yeah.
it seems so sad and pitiful. So yeah, that, oh yeah, but
No, and the kind of go back on what you were saying about like, like the references, like the hammer horror and stuff like that. Like the TV horror host is like one of the things
Hmm.
that immediately grasps you. And then as well as like like you mentioned at the top of the show, Peter Vincent shirt, his name's Peter
Hmm.
Cushing mixed with Vincent Price. And
Yeah,
there's just so many nice nods and stuff like that. But one thing, I jumped into the middle of the film, so to take us back to the beginning, one of the things to me about this film that makes it special, the first 15 minutes of this movie are to me the definition of perfect filmmaking. So like
sure.
when the film starts, you get kind of like the draw in to the house and you hear like Fright Night playing very calmly and stuff, but you get just it's enough ominous vibes to let you know that this film is a little horror, and there it's
Hmm.
spooky, but it's not enough to make you think like, oh, you're getting into the scariest film of all time. Like it puts
Yeah.
you in the perfect mood for this film. And then within the first two or three frames, you find out, all right, this is Charlie. He's a teenager. He has this girlfriend. They're obviously in those moments where heavy petting is a
Uh-huh.
thing. But then you also find out they're watching a TV horror host. So you find out he's a
Hmm.
horror fan and he's that kind of kid. You also see like the tear in their relationship with him like being so tuned out while she's so like into him. And then of course before that scene even ends, you get already introduced to the neighbor with Jerry Dandridge, and all that mystery starts. And so, like, you get all this information so quick, even to the very next moment where they go downstairs and you find out that you know, you find out that he's got like he introduces himself to his mom, and
Hmm.
he mentions having a neighbor, and she says something that like lets you know that he has a single mom. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much information given to you. Like, you find out exactly who Charlie Brewster is. You find out exactly who his annoying fucking girlfriend is, which I'll get to in a minute. You find out exactly who his mom is, and you get the villain. Uh, introduced and already kind of like start the mystery all within that first like 10 to 15 minutes without like just spewing it out in a fucking
Sure.
like monologue thing. You know what I mean? Like it's not the Scorpion King where like and for thousands of years he was, you know what I mean? So no,
Sure.
I think the beginning of this film is, and I'm not saying it drops off, like it, it stays good and everything, but I'm just saying like the way this film starts for me is just like literally perfect. You get all the information you need about the main characters, about where the story is going, and then it also like starts off with this like they didn't spend 20 minutes letting us know who Charlie was before he sees Jerry move in. It's like
Sure.
immediately like Jerry moves in and the shit starts. So no,
Yep.
that's one thing I like adore about this film is how quick it moves and how well it moves quick, but it does it in a way that doesn't, it's not at any expense of the film. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, you really can tell this movie has like the utmost heart in it. You know what
yeah,
I mean? Like there's nothing about it. And I have the documentary about it. You're so cool, Brewster. And in that documentary, they talk about that so much, like how much, like, because I think the studio that was putting it out kind of didn't expect it to succeed. They're
yeah,
just kind of like, yeah, this is going to be just something else, you know. And so, Holland and crew and everything, they're just like kind of left alone. So they just got to make something fun that they truly enjoyed, and we're seeing like the results of that. So I think that that's what helps with everything that you're saying is so successful. So, but yeah, I mean, again, and I think this was, I mean, other than Scream, Scream is super meta, but this was like one of the first films, like as I was doing more of a deep dive, that truly does the like meta thing, like Charlie is this horror obsessed teenager, and it's like this movie is like a cool, interesting like conversation about horror culture and how that affects, everybody. And of course his horror obsession is what leads him to even being able to believe in the vampire and everything. So I don't know, it's just something about that I love because it always makes me think about like what if there was a zombie encounter or whatever. Like all the horror movies that I've seen, like I feel prepared for for most of this shit to a certain degree, you know what I mean? So I instantly just connected with his character because I was like, yeah, I know that guy. So I love him. But yeah.
yeah. No, Scream is my favorite horror movie, and you're 100% right. Like you could easily say that that's like kind of one of the things they ripped is using horror movies to defeat the villain. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
if he didn't read horror books or watch Dracula, he wouldn't know what you need in order to defeat the vampires. And I think you're right. I think that was the first time something like that was used on film. I mean, this and Monster Squad came out around the same time, so I mean, I
Sure.
guess it was something that was kind of already like going on in film, but and it's kind of hard to pinpoint where it really started. But it was definitely not to the point where it was like not original. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
they were doing it in the middle of some other people doing it, but it was like it was one of those where it's like, well, who really did it first? You know what I mean? Because all these films were probably filmed
Oh
about the
yeah.
same time. Because like, and then around the same time you had. uh they finally made what's his name a mask fan or like a horror fan and Friday the 13th, but that's nowhere near as
Mhm.
meta because he doesn't like use horror films or nothing. But so
Sure. But
that's a
then
bad
even
rule.
so, like with a movie like Monster Squad, I feel like the trope of the little kids, something bad or paranormal or what happens like around kids live in a world of imagination already. Like whether it's, talking about Santa Claus or this and that, they live in this world of fairy tales with the Tooth Fairy. And, so in Monster Squad, it is kind of like, oh yeah, well, like of course, like we're dealing with monsters. Like there's a weirder like acceptance for the younger kids,
Yeah,
whereas like Fright Night, it's teenagers. Like you don't see movies where adults pretty much for the most part are like, oh yeah, like I believe in this stuff, so I
yeah.
think that's also kind of what also, really changed how I viewed this movie. So, but
Yeah, and even like Peter Vincent, like he takes some convincing and stuff like that, but
mhm.
it's those things from the movies that like show, or it depends on where like you're looking for the knowledge. You could say it comes from books or movies, but
Sure.
just media in general. It's that knowledge of being a fan or being somebody that studies like horror and stuff like that. Like when he saw that they didn't have a reflection, he immediately knew what was happening, and it was because of that knowledge and stuff like that. So. No, I agree. And that's one of the things that I like about films like this, where they live in a world where it's obviously like, um, it is far-fetched because nobody like for the most part, people won't believe Charlie and they don't even believe Peter Vincent. Like in the second movie, they throw him in a mental hospital and stuff like that and stuff, which
Mhm.
we're not going to talk about that movie. We'll probably save that for a whole nother episode because
Sure.
I know we both like that one as well. But, uh, so it's one of those things where it's like the people that do believe it's because they have that knowledge of like uh what it takes to expose a vampire. So once they've exposed it, they know like okay, now we got to use that same knowledge to beat it and stuff like that. So no, I agree. This is one of the first like meta style films to really come out. And then also it doesn't sugarcoat anything because like when you think about it, like Evil Ed, the way that he like immediately gets turned into well, not immediately, but about halfway through the film gets turned into a vampire. And then like after that, like we talked about the wolf scene, like that's such a brutal thing to happen to him. And he's just a kid character that's supposed to be Charlie's friend. I mean, I know he's a shitty
Mhm.
friend, but I mean, I know we all, I mean, I don't know about you, but I had a friend like that back in the day that every
Yeah.
word out of our mouths was "fuck you, man, you're a piece of shit." But in the end, like if somebody else said that to them, we would be fighting them together. You know what I mean? And it's like, um,
Sure.
so like the fact that that happens, the fact that his like girlfriend pretty much gets completely, I mean, not pretty much, she does get completely turned
Yeah.
into a vampire and stuff like that. And even to the point where I almost like thought I remembered her dying until I rewatched it again. And I was like, oh yeah,
Mm.
she doesn't die. And then, so it's just one of those things where it's like, there's so much that like the stakes get raised in this film higher than a lot of films that deal with teenagers and stuff like that. Cause like Charlie, like to me, I always compare it to Gremlins, for instance, because
Mm.
Charlie, the kid, really, William Ragsdale reminds me very much of Zach Galligan. And career-wise,
100%.
they both knocked it out of the park in these horror movies, family horror movies almost. And it's like, which Fright Night probably leans a little bit less from the family part,
Mhm.
but they both knocked it out of the park in these films and but they never got the opportunities of like some of these other child actors and stuff like that, and I feel like they
Sure.
definitely should have, but because they stayed in the horror realm and stuff they never really did. And for instance with William Ragsdale going back for Fright Night 2 and
Mhm.
Gallagher doing stuff like Waxwork and stuff like that. So but my difference between those two is like in Gremlins, like nothing happens to like his girlfriend, for instance, like she's safe the whole movie. Like everything that
Mhm.
happens evil to people in those films in Gremlins is like adults, you know what I mean? So the stakes get raised in this one immediately because you got Evil Ed get put in danger, the girl get put, like it's not like his mom
Mhm.
is like the only person in danger, and it's pretty much him and teenagers other than Peter Vincent. And Peter Vincent stays safer than anybody. So, no, the fact that they put teenagers truly in danger in this film also raises the stakes and makes the film like stand out more than kind of like I mean, and that's one of the things that Lost Boys does as well. So that's why I still like Lost
Yeah,
Boys too, you know, because it
totally.
puts teenagers at stake. But there's just so many films that there's so many films that come out nowadays that star teenagers where within the first 30 minutes you're like everybody's safe, nobody's gonna die, and
Yeah.
that's how it ends. You can tell, like you just tell by the way that it's going that that's how it is. And after the scene where Jerry shows up in the alleyway with Ed in this, you're like, I don't know who's safe. Like I don't really know,
Yeah.
you know, like nobody. And then of course, like once you see Homegirl's a vampire Amy at the end, you're like, what the fuck? This is
Yeah.
like no, nobody's
But
safe.
but I think to add to that, and it goes back, and I kind of said this already, but like, you mentioned like, oh, everybody knew a kid like Evil Ed, and like, and the danger that they face, like, yeah, I mean, straight up, yeah, all the things that they're going through, nobody's safe, but you feel it so much more, in my opinion, because all of the characters feel real. They feel like genuine teenagers. And I know like they like Charlie Sheen auditioned for Brewster's character.
Yeah,
Like can you imagine if this movie had Charlie Sheen in it, how different it would be? Like I'm so glad they didn't pick him because they knew they needed a relatable, goofy, awkward, high school kid.
yeah,
Same thing with Evil Ed. He is the epitome of the dork comic kid that like won't stop cracking up about stuff, and he's just so insane, but you still love him. And then even Amy's character, like she's the like plucky teenager girl that was like always good at, school stuff, but then is kind of annoying. And even the mom has so much charm. She's a
yeah,
classic, single mom that's obsessed with all the things, like classic 80s mom that's obsessed with, beauty and being nosy about the neighbors, but you still like there's something very real about her. So I think that's just the thing I love so much. And even and Jerry's character as a vampire, like there's moments in this film, even with Jerry, where he shows like remorse. He
yeah.
doesn't want to kill the kids, but they won't leave him alone because they're being too much like the Scooby Gang and trying to ruin his plans. But so there's like, I don't know, I love it. So you feel bad for every like angle of what's going to happen. So it feels so much more perilous, like you said.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome. And yeah, there's so many like interesting like the documentary definitely plays up like the like queer aspects of the film, and like how that really wasn't a thing that movies were doing. And one of I can't remember if it was Holland that said it in the documentary or one of the other like the special effects guys, like, you know, he kind of winked. He's like, I mean, it's the 80s. Like we all were talking about this. We all knew it, but like it wasn't commercialized. It wasn't like the flag that we were raising as the theme of the film. But like there's a lot of interesting like queer subcontext in this movie. That kind of champions a lot of that stuff. Like, I mean, Jerry lives with his, with oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his roommate, Billy Cole.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's like, the mom's like, oh, I hear there's a guy that lives with him and he's a living carpenter. Like
Yeah.
so there's like interesting, and Jerry's like a very suave character. He's very sexy, but he's not like macho alpha sexy. You know what I mean? And yeah, and then also, I mean, just outside of the story itself, I mean, you have Amanda Bierce and like, uh and Stephen Joffreys, right? Isn't that his last name? I
Yeah.
think that plays Evil Ed. Like they both, come out in the real world, and and it wasn't known at the time, but I think they all kind of like some in the documentary, they're like, yeah, we kind of knew, so
Yeah.
it's kind of cool that this movie is like giving people a like almost like a safe space type film for that kind of thing. It celebrates the culture a little bit. So I just think that's cool. Like, in a film, like to me, that's like super punk rock to like do that in a subtle way. And you have like this whole other, cultural fan base because of that. So, but yeah, I feel like there's just lots of little things like that. The special effects help it stand out. And, I mean, can we talk about Peter Vincent for a little bit? Like,
Yeah, let me
I
comment
mean,
on something you said real quick though.
yeah, go ahead.
No,
Yeah,
just to compare the movie again to Scream, like the queer undertones in the film
sure.
are like perfect, like examples. Like when Jerry, there's a scene where Jerry walks up behind Billy and he like just like kind of like
Yeah.
sits on his shoulder, and that's
Mm.
exactly what Stu and Billy do.
Oh,
Billy,
yeah, you're right.
and his name
It
is
is true.
he's named Billy Loomis. It would make complete sense if Kevin Williamson loved this
Whoa,
film, and Kevin Williamson is, he's come out as well over the, over the years and stuff. So it would
that's
definitely
cool.
make sense if this was a huge influence on Scream, like just looking at all the like small subtle things. Like,
Hmm,
no, I could definitely see that. Like, uh. And I'm with you 100%. Like that whole the whole scene where she says like something's weird next door, and it's almost like that's kind of where you
hmm,
could say that might even been where the story grew out of. Like, oh, these two guys moved in next door. That's weird. There must be
hmm.
something going on that's, not normal. And it's like, as a kid's,
Sure.
and that's the thing is like a kid's imagination might take that to vampires. You know what I mean? Because it's not
Yeah,
gonna think like if I told my son right now, like, I mean, it's hard to even like bring up like a scenario because it's so different nowadays than what it was back then.
sure.
So it's
Totally.
like, but like that's the thing is if you gave that scenario to an adult, they might be like, "Oh, they're a gay couple." If you give that scenario to a kid, he might be like, "They're vampires." So it's like I
Yeah.
could see where it could have grown from that easily and been like, "Oh, this is a good way to turn." So they all, and that's one thing I love about vampire films. Same thing with zombie films is the way they take these monsters or creatures, however you look at it, and
Mhm.
turn them in, or a curse, how depending on the film, and turn it into a narrative that has a deeper meaning. Whether it's you know. Just people that have dealt with the different traveling through time, or dealing with
Mhm.
being trapped in a certain age, or dealing with just being cast out in general, like say like very much like with the queer undertones, and the
Mhm.
and vampire and stuff. But no, I agree 100%. And we could definitely jump into Peter Vincent because Roddy McDowall, just casting in general in this film is excellent. We've already mentioned, like by them doing the more unknown with Charlie Brewster was a perfect example, and both, Stephen Jeffries, who became a porn star, shout out to him for doing his thing in the business, but and then
Uh-huh.
Amanda Bierce, which is probably one of my only complaints about the film, which I'll get into in a second, but
Sure.
it's not really a complaint, but no, just the casting in general, because I think she still fits what they were going for. Just the casting in general though is perfect, but Roddy McDowall's Peter Vincent is just fucking chef's kiss, dude. So,
Oh my
what do
God.
you want to get into with him? I mean, the design of everything about the character is like perfect.
He's just, yeah, I don't know, man. He's one that I've been lucky to go to like horror conventions because of Toxic Coffin and stuff like that, and get to meet so many people. That's somebody I would have loved to have met. I just feel like he has like there's something about actors that just have, and the same thing with Robin Williams. I mean, it's Robin Williams is on a whole nother level, but like they just exude this presence that's more than just their character and whatnot. And yeah, Roddy McDowall, like you just love him so much. And he's like an asshole to these kids, but then he becomes like their best friend, and he's so old, but he has so much charm. Um, I would watch every second of an actual Peter Vincent Fright Night late night movie marathon. I love me some Joe Bob, but give me Peter Vincent all day long. Um, I don't know. I was captivated by his character. And then in like the documentary, they talk about how amazingly like awesome he was to everybody. Like he was a true like friend and like mentor to them as actors. Would constantly have like parties and invite them over to like you know just like teach them things and just be nice and enjoy cinema and the theater. Like, so I don't know. He just sounds like the best person in the world.
Oh yeah,
I want him to adopt me.
become little Steven Vincent.
Yeah, it'd be tight. Um, but yeah, he's awesome. And he's so unassuming as a vampire hunter, like especially in the end. Like I always think about that. Like this teenager's going into a vampire's home with I don't know how old Peter Vincent is supposed to be in this movie, but he's not like in his 40s. He's definitely like 50s older, like you got a teenager and an old guy. Like, what are you guys gonna do? So I just love it that it's just such a fun like team, you know.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. No, it
but
feels very Scooby Gang with a special guest and special
oh
guest
yeah,
Peter
definitely.
Vincent. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But he's good. And I love when because he's, he's such a jerk, vain jerk about like his career and like, he's just so self-absorbed, like, oh, does anybody want an autograph for me?
Yeah.
So he's always confused when the teenager, like, what? I don't know what you're talking about. Um, but I love when he finds out that Jerry's actually a vampire just because he drops that little compact mirror, and doesn't see the reflection. And then it's just like, oh gosh, it's like I thought that was such a great turn in the film, because you're just like so annoyed with him, at that point, but then he just becomes a badass.
Yeah.
So,
No, hell yeah. Now, and of course, my favorite scene in the film is probably the when Evil Ed shows up in Peter Vincent's like apartment and he hits him with
mm,
the like cross for the first time and it like burns in his forehead. That like
mm,
effect like just like in front of the camera just works so perfectly. And then
mm.
of course like just the way that like Evil Ed's like kind of like, oh, why, like why'd you do that? Like
Yeah,
uh
he's so upset.
yeah, no, I just love all that whole interaction right there. Just like it's like the two best characters in the movie, and like the best interaction that like epitomizes the movie. One that like
Hmm.
a guy that didn't believe and is now in shock and shit like that, and then one that's like on the opposite end, like he didn't believe and now is like, all right, well now I'm a fucking vampire. So, no,
Yeah.
I love this film. Do you have a
And
favorite?
his dinner is in the fridge. He just pops up and he's wearing
Yeah,
that stupid Raggedy Ann wig.
yeah,
It's so
fucking.
good. Yeah.
No, between that scene and then the like the wolf scene that I've already mentioned like several times,
Mm,
like those are like my two favorite scenes. One because it's so brutal, it, like it's like wow, like you didn't even expect it, and then the other one because it's like so fun and like you get like
mm.
a vampire being because that's the thing is Jerry, like you said, Jerry's like suave and like almost like remorseful at times, but like when Evil Ed becomes evil, he's just like fucking like a little dickhead. So, do you have a
Yeah.
favorite scene in the film or?
Favorite scene. Honestly, those are probably up there. Um, there's something about the movie where like any of the scenes in the bedroom always really captivated me. Um, it feels so symbolic for being like a teenage boy. Like his room is like being trapped in a teenage boy's mind.
Yeah,
He's spying on his neighbor. He's super noisy. He's just a dwarfy teen, locked away in his room to his own devices, horror movies. He's got like Playboys on the floor and stuff, like making out with his girlfriend, trying to make advances on her, but she's swatting him away. Like, stop it, But then like the spying and like, when like the first that prostitute shows up and is like, oh, is this, your the address? And he's like, it's like a hot woman. He's just like, like werewolf eyes, like boing, and she walks into the house. So it's like the scenes where he's in his room and I don't know, there's something about that just like feels like perfect teenage boy angst. So I like those, and I like the odd like spying that he does. I think is kind of funny and whatever. And has like a dreamlike sequence, like when he first sees Jerry in the window and he finds out that he's a vampire, and the score. I mean, that score is
oh yeah,
perfect. It just sets the mood so well. So yeah, that really stands out to me. And then I mean, honestly, the end is great. Like it's such a crescendo of everything that's going on with Amy's character. They call it the shark mouth or whatever.
yeah. No,
I
that
mean, that was
design is
such
so yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's so cool that they did that, because they easily could have just made her like a, hissing, like, just like, look at my fangs,
Yeah.
because
Oh,
they already
snake.
made her, it's funny how they transform her character in that movie, because she starts off like pretty, I mean, she's fine. But she starts off as just like your everyday, girl next door. And then they make her like super hot by the end of the movie. You know what I mean? Like I'm always like, what? She went through so much makeup transformation in this movie. It's kind of hilarious. But yeah, they did such a good job with that. So yeah, the end scene and the fight and everything is awesome. So, but yeah.
No, hell yeah. No, and I agree. I like those like little scenes, like for instance, like you mentioned how he's like trying to get laid, and then the one time she's like, "I'm ready," he's like so oblivious. It's like
It's so oblivious.
every teenage boy can like relate to that. Like there's always been that time where like afterwards you
Uh,
find out like, wait, she would have done what? Like, like you're like, oh fuck, I just should have kissed
mm,
her, like, or something like, and it's one of those like definitely like he's so
yeah.
relatable and all that. And they do a good job of making him like not the popular kid, but he's not just getting fucking bullied. Like he's not getting
Oh
just
yeah,
milk
totally.
dumped in his pants or like
Yeah.
stupid like 'cause that's one thing I hate about movies nowadays is like I tried to watch the Chucky series and the kid was getting so fucking bullied that I'm like, this is unrealistic. Like it's an
Mm,
unrealistic amount of like stuff going on. And I'm like, and like that show is a heightened reality, so it's a little different, but like
sure.
just like it just always takes me out of it when like somebody's getting bullied like right in front of a teacher to an extent that's like ridiculous. Like literally like
Hmm.
people will be like pulling a dead cat out of a backpack and they're just like, ah, I'm like, no, you would be in a mental hospital because you did something like what? Like that's you're Michael Myers now. So it's no, it's
Mm,
one of those where it's they do a good job of just establishing like where he is like in like the food chain of like high school and stuff like that, but also
mm,
like and like why him and Ed are friends because they kind of accept each other for being into similar stuff but not necessarily being similar in personalities, but who else is
yeah.
going to be our friend, you know what I mean? So
Yep.
no, I really enjoy that as well, but I only have I only have two complaints. One's major and one's very minor about the film. And
Okay.
then, of course, I'll pass it on to you to say any complaints as well as any kind of like other stuff you want to say about the film before we talk about
Mm,
this, the sequels and remakes and all that.
sure.
And, of course, rate it and stuff. But my only two complaints is Amanda Beers as Amy.
Mm,
From Rip, I'm like, she's fucking annoying. Like, I understand why you're ignoring her. Like, and I'm a person that I grew up on Married with Children and I love the show
hmm.
Married with Children. And I feel like that's the character she's meant to play is like that kind of person, like the annoying person. And in this movie,
Mm,
she just comes off annoying. I don't ever think she gets hot. Like, in my opinion, she's like
mm,
never like prettier. Like, I'm not saying she's not attractive at all. Like, I think she's like perfectly fine from Rip, but like
sure.
I don't think she ever gets like as that's the problem is that I don't think that the transformation, in my opinion, isn't as drastic as they're trying for it to be.
Mm,
Um, Especially because like at the end, like they have her looking kind of rough. Like there's a scene where she kind of like they kind of like um the mouth goes away and she kind of just like looks rough in like these nice clothes and I'm
sure.
like you're just I was like now you look worse than you look the whole movie. So I was just like I'm not even trying to be mean because like uh I like Amanda Beers and I like her as a person. Like I would love to meet her, but
Mm.
if I met her, I wouldn't be like, yo, you were shitty in Fright Night. But of course, I'd never do that. But if I met her, I would probably get her to sign a Fright Night thing. Even though I'm more of a even though I love Married with Children, I wouldn't say I'm more of a fan of Married with
Sure.
Children. But I love the show. But like I literally have all the Funko Pops. I literally am looking at like a Peggy Funko Pop right now.
It's
But
interesting that you say that about that because I need to go back and rewatch the documentary. I'm trying to remember if it was her or somebody else, but they kind of talk about, I think it was her. I think she talks about like feeling miscast in that film. Um, Partially because she's supposed to play, because she comes out, she's a lesbian in real life. And at that time, I don't think she had come out. But I think part of that is she's like never felt like she was supposed to be like the cute girl next door that's in love with this boy. So I think she felt like somewhat out of place
yeah,
um, during the filming of this. Uh, but yeah, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe that kind of adds to it. There's like maybe some extra bit of inauthenticity of her character and like maybe her annoyance. It just you kind of saw through it. I don't know, but
yeah.
yeah.
And only because it's easy to compare it to, just because it's like exactly it's the sequel. And Fright Night
Mm,
2, like that girl to me is like the biggest upgrade. And the thing is there's
sure.
still many scenes in the movie where she's supposed to be mad at Charlie, and I buy
Mm,
it. But they just gave
yeah.
me enough of her being sweet with Charlie as well and like loving that I'm like I buy that they like each other. Like in this, that's the one thing I guess when I said that the beginning is perfect, I guess I would say that is the one knock. Other than them just going at it like swap and spit. As soon as they start dialogue, it's like they fucking
Mm.
hate each other, and it's like she's so bright and she's so like
Sure.
Charlie, like everything's like why, like she's so whiny to me, like in the beginning. So that's where it just I don't know. I just but it doesn't ruin the movie for me. I just feel like it would upgrade the movie if that was if she was just a little bit better cast. But that's
Sure.
only that is the like big my one big complaint, and I only say it's big because in comparison to my other one is that it drags a little bit in the third act, and
Mm,
it's really to me just about the time where they enter the club and like that whole dance scene happens and stuff like that.
mm,
At that point, I'm like, I just either something before that needed to be cut out or that needed to be like briefer. You know what I mean? Because like
sure.
every once they get to the house, everything that happens, I feel like that climax, like I feel like that timeline and climax works perfectly. But somewhere
Hmm.
between Evil Ed getting bitten and them getting to all of them being in the house fighting Jerry, it just feels like there's just too much like extra in there somewhere. And I'm like, whether it's just
Sure.
tightening up everything a little bit,
Hmm.
instead of cutting one major thing, like honestly, their slow dance scene is like not sexy enough to me to need to be fucking that long. You know what I mean? Like he could have
Sure.
seduced her way quicker. I think it would have been a way better scene if he literally seduced her and dipped out of the club with her, and then Jerry was like, or and then Charlie was like, "Where is she?" And then like had to go find her. They were at the house. Bada bing, bada boom. What's going on? Said he
Hmm.
like had to dance with her for 5 minutes, and then choke a couple people. And I'm like,
Hmm.
that scene was kind of cool, but I'm like, we already know he's a vampire. We already know he's strong. Like, so I would have just like definitely shrunk up maybe that scene and like just to move the
Sure.
pace along. Because at that point, that's when I'm like, all right, we need to start reaching the climax. And then it's like that almost like holds me up from hitting the climax that I'm excited about. So
Yeah.
other than that slight drag, I'm really just giving the detail to say that that's why it's a complaint. It's not a big enough complaint to like really drop my score down, which I'll say
Mm.
when we get to our rating and stuff. But those are just my two, and those are my only two
Sure.
complaints. Other than that, like I love all everything else. I like is perfect to me. Like I said, I love the rest of the casting is perfect. I
Hmm.
love the way everything looks. All the practical effects are great. The storytelling is great. Like the way that they set up characters and the way that they move the story forward so quickly, without like forcing stuff. So
Yeah. That's so funny. I mean, and not to knock any of your thoughts on it because everybody has their, but it's funny. I was not affected by her character the way that you were.
And it might be
Like
because I'm a
I
fan of Married with Children, so it might just be
yeah.
where it's like that's how I
Um,
see her. So
Sure. Yeah, no, I found her in the film. I mean, when I saw the movie, I found her like, adorable and cute, but not in like a like she's the hottest, like she's no Kelly Kapowski kind of
oh,
thing.
yeah.
Uh, but like there's something about her that I just, was like, oh, she's cute, like I would want a girlfriend like that, even if she is naggy and annoying, but there's something nice about that. And that dance scene, I absolutely love. Uh, I felt and still feel every time I watch this movie the betrayal that Jerry has by swooping in and like stealing his girl. I remember in this first scene where they go to the house and he like kisses her hand. I was like, no sir, buddy,
Yeah.
that is Charlie's girl. But I'm like, how do you deal with the smolder of Chris Sarandon? Uh, and yeah, that dance scene, I mean, I think this movie is like the whole film is pretty sexy in general.
Yeah.
In a 80s kind of way. I don't know. But yeah, that dance scene, like I was just like, oh, how dare him?
Oh,
Like, and
Chris Sarandon's hot. But I
yeah.
just and maybe that's the issue is like it's one of those things where immediately when she like gets her hand kissed, I was like, let him have her, Charlie. She sucks. So it's like maybe
No, I
that's
felt it. I
why I
felt
was
it.
like,
I felt it so hard.
yeah.
Uh, and I don't know, maybe when I first saw that movie, because like I saw it a little bit younger than you, so I feel like I was at that age where like I still had, you know, I guess like some of that teenage angst and feelings, so like I just always felt all of those like that love triangle to the core, so it's kind of funny. It's funny how that we can see it both completely differently. Um, but
Uh,
but
no,
I know what you
I'll
mean. The movie does kind of drag in the third for sure. And that would probably be my only criticism of it as well. Um, but I also, it's selfishly, I don't know how I would change it because I do like the scene. So I'm just like, oh yeah, you can't get rid of that, But
well, that's what I will say though that like like when I watched it back this past time, I felt every bit of betrayal like in that scene.
Oh, okay.
Like I was seething for like I was not gonna lie, I was sitting there like for Charlie, I was like started looking at my own wife like, bitch, if you ever fucking dance with somebody, no, I'm just like, no, like, if I ever catch you in a club like that, you better catch an RKO out of nowhere. But stun her. But fucking, this move is called the broke neck. No, I'm just, no, but no, so I've definitely feel like the impact of the scene, and really
Mm,
it's kind of like me thinking like quick on my feet, like what would I get rid of if I watched the
sure.
film back with the thought in my head of like, okay, where could we clip some stuff? I might be able to find something better. And then I wouldn't get rid of that scene entirely, but for
Yeah, that's
instance,
true.
like when they walk up to the club and they struggle to get in, then they go to the next door, then they climb in through the window. I'm like, you could have just had them walk into the front of a fucking club and get in, and
Yeah, do
then
you think
Jerry walks in. There was just so many like small
mhm.
things that like extended the scene that I'm like, it could have happened like they're in the club, he's there. Sorry, my cat was tearing up.
Do you think some of that stuff is like pressure to throw in some classic 80s, scenery and styles, like the dance club? I felt like that was classic, like, oh yeah, we got to hit the 80s dance club. And then even the scene where, which I like the scene, but it's like where they're at the like what I call the Saved by the Bell diner place. I don't think that was their school
The
or
dot,
waber.
or not the dot,
Yeah, wherever they're at, and
the dot's
Amy
Degrassi. I'm
smash.
trying to remember what.
Oh yeah, and Amy smashes the burger in his face. But like even that was like so like classic 80s. Like there's a few moments in the movie where I feel like they were purposely trying to add some like John Hughes like 80s bubblegum kind of, poppy culture to it to make it maybe make it relevant. So maybe that's where you could trim some of the fat because also I think it's still, I mean, it exudes 80s just because of all the other styling, but maybe for a current audience, they needed some of that cultural, relevance to bring in the hook of a younger crowd. So I don't know,
Yeah. No, it
but
definitely felt like somebody was pretty much like, "Hey, we need a vampire seduction scene. Hey,
Mhm.
let's modernize it." And then that's how it like that. I feel like that's exactly how that scene came to be. But I
Sure.
agree. There's even some early stuff where there's so much of the non-believing and
Mhm.
like him just like trying to convince people that like you could probably that's what I'm saying is like you could probably go through and trim a little bit here and there
Mhm.
to like just make it like 'cause there's nothing in the film that I'm like this needs to be cut out. Like even the dance scene, I'm like I don't want the whole thing gone. So it's
Mhm.
like I just feel like you could literally, like you said, go to the, like just small little things, like like even
Mhm.
the burger scene, like did that need to be in there? So it's like just
Sure.
some of the little stuff with because like you established their relationship so much early on that you don't need to keep giving us too much of their like rocky ass relationship. If anything, that just feeds into why she would give in to the temptation so quickly because them motherfuckers aren't even
Sure.
on, they're on the rocks. So if
Mhm.
anything, I would like that's what I'm saying is I would just love to see a little bit more like they could have easily just let them be lovey and it would have been even more heartbreaking when the
Mhm.
stuff happened. But I mean, and it would have been a little less, I guess, relatable. But they could still could have had
Sure.
like the rocky start and then had them be lovey after, like make up, and then that's where I feel like the sequel does a little bit better, which we can kind of segue into, unless you have any other comments to make about the original. Do you want to move on to just the sequel and remake real quick, or?
Yeah, I one last thing. The only if I had maybe my one complaint, and it's so minor, is when he brings the cop to the house. The guy that they got to play the cop, you know, is the most uncoply cop. It
Yeah.
feels like they were like, shoot, so and so got sick today. Hey, you could be our cop, and he does it. And that's the only one that has the weirdest like line deliveries in that movie. Um, but other than that, yeah, I don't know. This movie's perfect for me. I don't know if that sticks out to you at all, but
No, it is. I think it comes in very da-dumpty dump, de-dumpty
yeah.
dump. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like even me coming up with dragging and like we have to nitpick to really find like problems with this film, so it just shows like how good and like fun this film is overall. But
Mhm.
uh we could just talk real briefly, just like overall about like what we think about Fright Night Part 2, of course, because like we
Mhm.
might want to touch on them in future episodes. And
Yeah, definitely.
honestly, I'll go first real quick just because I don't have much to say. I haven't even seen the remake, to be honest with you. I kind of thought about trying to fit it in before this because I've been hearing good things and I know it has a good cast,
Mhm.
but I just I didn't really have time and I didn't want to force it in because then I knew if I forced, like if I was watching it right up until we started, like forced it in like that, then I wouldn't get the true experience and enjoy it like I should. So I was like, I'm not gonna force it in. So I've never seen the
Yeah.
remake, and Fright Night Part 2, I didn't even know about until you guys were doing the drop, and then we talked about
Mhm.
it Scares That Care, and I honestly, I won't say it's a better film than the first one, but I feel like it's dead equal because
Yeah, I agree.
it fixes the two problems I have with the first one by casting a way better girlfriend with way better chemistry, in my opinion, as well as it does not drag at all. However, the only reason I can't say it's better, or I might say, I mean, I might say I like it more, but I don't even know if I like it
Mhm.
more than the first one. But the only reason I can't say it's better is because even though it fixes those two problems, still the bulk of its story is a lot of recycled ideas from the
Mhm.
first movie, just kind of gender swapped and reworked in a way that doesn't feel like you watch these two films back to back and it doesn't feel like you watched like exactly the same film, but you will
Totally.
be able to see those similarities immediately. Like, oh, this is just like in this film, only now it's the girlfriend being the hero, or the sister, she's more seductive to Charlie because he's male and she's female, where before Charlie
Sure.
wasn't seductive by Jerry and stuff. So, no, it's just different things like that. And but and of course like the whole like ragtag group of like friends and stuff is cool that she had
Mhm.
like she comes with and stuff is awesome. So no, I love that. The only thing that I didn't mention about the original movie that I wanted to is the theme song by Jay Giles Band, homie that did Centerfold. That song
Oh
fucking
yeah.
slaps too, dude. That's a
Yep.
underrated theme song that doesn't get enough play. I think it's because it only plays in the title card where like
Mhm.
Terror Vision plays at the beginning and end. Same thing with Killer Clowns,
Sure.
So a lot of people are so used to hearing those like at the front and end of the movie where a lot of the Fright Night fans, like, unless you sit around for the credits, you're not. And
Mhm.
sometimes you might just hear it and think, "Oh, this is a typical '80s song." You have to listen till it says
Mhm.
Fright Night to know, "Oh, they made a Fright
Yeah.
Night song." So, but
Yeah.
what were your thoughts on the sequel and remake? And I mean, I know the remake even had
Oh
its own
yeah.
sequel. I don't know if you went that far, but
So I never made it to the sequel of the remake. I saw the remake. I mean, I was when that came out, I was so beyond obsessed with the original that I was just like, I don't know. And I'm like, I'm gonna see it anyways. And it was fine. I hated how they spun Peter Vincent's character. Like
yeah,
that was I did not like that. But the rest was fine. And then it was also like during that era of like Colin Farrell kind of sucks. Like
yeah,
haven't seen him in anything good in a while. Like I was disappointed that he was the villain. So like casting wise, it was fine. I saw it. I wasn't offended by it, but I haven't watched it ever since I saw it in theaters. So
yeah,
and I don't have any like desire to go back and watch it. But if we're talking the sequel, yeah, I saw that one later, kind of uh, pretty decently later after the first one, mainly because I just didn't know there was a sequel. And largely because of like all of the issues that happened with the studio and like the true crime story associated with that.
yeah,
Like I might not have seen that movie until like 2015 or something like that. 'Cause I think the reason why I saw that movie was I'm pretty positive last podcast guys talk about Fright Night 2 because of the Menendez brothers or something like that. And then I was like, there's a Fright Night 2. You know,
yeah,
it was something. I think that's how I learned about the sequel was because of the story of the Menendez brothers and learning that their father was a studio guy and that's the studio that owned Fright Night 2 and when he died everything went basically into limbo and they didn't get the distribution. It got to play, but other than that was kind of it. But yeah, it's a great sequel. I love the new vampires. And yeah, I mean it's it's still got how often do we get a horror movie that has the sequel that just picks right off from the story? I feel like you don't get that a whole lot. Like it's always like years later or whatever. And I just love that it picks up right after. Um, and it's the same character and you're just following along. And yeah, it's great. Charlie goes to college. It's like a Descendants album.
Right. And it's
So,
directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, who did Halloween 3. So I was
oh
fucking,
yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Uh,
And
and there's
it
some,
miniseries.
yeah, still great kills, great practical effects, still like good, like steamy, like I don't know, like the like sexiness of it is still there from the first one. I just feel like it's really on par, and I think kind of what you, I think sort of said like some of the reason why it, in my opinion, it can't be better is like the magic of what the first one was can't be recaptured again on a watch because it's like it's you might as well watch the first movie again. Like you can't rewatch the same movie and feel that same magic that you feel the first time you see a film. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so seeing the sequel, it's like, well, you've already lived that feeling, so it's just it's there, but it's not the first time you feel it again. You know what I mean? If that
Yeah.
makes sense. Um, and so I think that's probably where it falls for me. And then probably one of the most badass vampires ever, Belle, that plays the roller skating vampire. Like that scene where uh they kill that, you know, because that's the other thing is that he's like a non-binary vampire and they don't talk about that, you know,
Yeah.
because in the 80s, but like that was huge. And when we did that drop for Fright Night too, again, like that was another thing. I didn't realize that this movie had such a giant love in the LGBTQ community. And we had some of the like coolest conversations with customers that were like, this movie means so much to me. That I was just like, man, this is rad. I love that like a film can you can have conversations between people that like you know have different lifestyles and cultures and everything and it's great. It was cool. And yeah, I love the sequel. It's great. Hard to find. If you could watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to find a VHS of Fright Night 2 sometime. That's on my holy grail list for sure.
Didn't it finally get, isn't it finally getting the 4K treatment now?
From what I've been told, yeah, they're gonna do it. So
Yeah, I think it was actually announced and everything.
mm,
Yep, it was Snaps is doing it. Yep. So if Snaps does it, it says it'll be out in 2026. So that means it's definitely
sweet.
coming. And I got a couple Snaps releases. I'm a big fan of the stuff that they put out. So I'll
Yeah, I
definitely
have the
keep looking at it.
Suspiria steelbook that they did, the
Yeah.
4K one, and it's phenomenal. So yeah, I'm hyped.
Now that you
So
say that, I think that's who I got is a couple of. I don't have Suspiria, but I have Tenebrae, and then I have
mm.
the Demons 2 pack. I think I have is
Oh, nice.
Synapse as well. So no, hell yeah, and of course self plug. I had Bart Mixon on who did the makeup effects on Fright Night Part 2. So if anybody wants to go back and listen to that episode, he was awesome to chat about. I mean to chat with about
Hmm.
that. So definitely check that out. And we chat about him working on the It miniseries as well with Tommy Lee Wallace and stuff like that. So,
Hmm.
did you end up getting any audience participation or anything? Or
I didn't see that as far as where are you talking about people rating any of these?
yeah, I didn't know if you'd like asked any like friends or anything like that, but no,
No,
it's,
I didn't. I didn't. Sorry. Did anybody comment about it or anything? Did anybody leave? I know Phil's friend mentioned he loves the movie, but I don't know if he rated it.
yeah,
Um,
no, I got a couple, I got quite a few responses. I have
nice.
my buddy Tipper said that he would give it a 7.3 paired with The Burbs. You can never go wrong with that classic, the neighborhood. He said you can never go wrong with that classic, quote unquote, the neighborhood's gone to shit film.
Mm,
So I definitely agree. The Burbs is a really good pair with it, and I
yeah.
even responded to him because he sent me this morning, and I told him because I rewatched Fright Night last night, and I ended up watching Fright Night Part 2 afterwards. And then I was gonna watch when it went off, The Burbs was the first thing it recommended on Tubi, and I was like,
Oh, that's funny.
I kind of want to watch The Burbs, but I
Yeah,
was like,
that'd be a good double feature.
yeah, I was like, I'll save that for later. But so I definitely agree with him on that. Like you said, Derek, who we got to meet at
Yeah.
Tidewater Horror Con, known as Blockbusted Videos, and one half of Don't Be Dead podcast on Instagram. He said 10 out of 10, perfect vampire movie. And then bubblegum.banshee on Instagram also said absolute favorite horror flick of all time. I'll definitely be listening, talking about the episode. Mike Kuciak, director and writer of the film Death Metal, said it is in fact my all-time favorite vampire movie. Shout out to him, Mike. Jeff, who we forgot to mention at the top of the episode, but the day that this
Oh yeah.
episode drops, will be out at Artist Block at Yorkies in Virginia Beach, and Jeff is the one putting it on. He's a director as well. He's doing Beach Bro Bloodbath coming up soon, shot entirely in Virginia Beach, as well as he has a short right now called The Shadowlawn Creeper and a bunch of others on YouTube, so check that
Mm.
out. But he said one of the best 80s vampire movies, 9 out of 10. Side note, the actor that plays the lead vampire, I guess that he means Chris Sarandon, of course, and this ends up playing the pastor in Bordello of Blood, of course, which also contains Corey Feldman as a vampire as opposed to when he was a vampire hunter in The Lost Boys.
Mm.
I like
Yeah.
this bit of useless info that ties all three films together. And I responded to him and let him know, I was like, I never thought about that, because like I've seen Bordello Blood like once, but like I just don't ever link that those two are in it. You know what I mean? So,
Sure, sure.
because there was one time when I first watched Demon Knight and Bordello of Blood, I was like, I'll just keep watching Demon Knight. Like Bordello's fine, but I much prefer Demon Knight. And then of course all my buddies in my monthly roundtable gave me their thoughts. Uh, my buddy Phil, who's vocalist of the band Irate, and now vocalist for the band Knights of the Black, also was vocalist of the band Judah Syndrome, says OG Fright Night is an absolute delight and treasure. Have enjoyed watching it since I was a kid, and it never gets old. Chris Sarandon was the perfect vampire for this film, charmed everyone into thinking he was your normal, everyday, friendly neighborhood dude, while being
Mm.
deviously deceptive when charming the pants off would be when charming the pants off would be concubines. I don't know if you missed a word there, but my mother my mother even wanted to be bitten by him. LOL. William Ragsdale was the perfect hater and non-believer. He was also a complete herb and zero match for for Jerry and his guardian Billy. That said, he was determined to get rid of Jerry and win his last love, Amy, back. With the help of TV vampire Peter Vincent, they fought the good fight and while getting their ass kicked, eventually outsmarted and defeated the evil Jerry. Amy and Evil were great additions to the film, with Evil succumbing to Jerry's evil. Evil's transformation into a vampire were top notch. FX wise, I can't read for shit. Evil's transformation into a vampire were top notch. God damn it, top notch FX wise. It's so small on my phone, and that can't be understated. All the vampires looked fantastic, and credit should be given to the team. I love the story, and it's one of my all-time favorite vampire stories. And then his son Jay, who plays guitar in Knights of the Black and also Brass Knuckle Brigade, said Fright Night is a cult classic vampire film that only falls second to The Lost Boys. And the last one is Ren, who's
Mm.
also one of my monthly co-hosts. He's going to join us probably for the episode at the end of the month about the TV Halloween episodes. And he's
Yeah.
also used to be in the band Bottom Feeder, so check Bottom Feeder out if you haven't already. They're not a band anymore, but might as well check them out. Ren says, as a lover of vampire films, Fright Night doesn't typically rank at the top of my go-to films in the subgenre, but that doesn't mean it's not good. Yeah, vampire films I know are Ren's like every time I bring like if I ever hate on a vampire film, he's immediately like, fuck you. And I'm like, dude, you don't even like this one. What's wrong? And, this is a classic that drips with all the charm you want out of an 80s horror comedy. Richard England perfected his craft with the makeup effects on this, which I saw somewhere says Steve Johnson, so but maybe Richard England was part of it too. Especially
Hmm.
after being able to play around with the Ghostbusters budget prior to joining this film. The old
Yeah, I do
school,
think, yeah, there was, yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure they were maybe both on it. Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't doubt if like it was also like a multiple effects artist thing for sure.
Hmm.
The old school Yeah. The old school hard contexts were in full effect on this film. Chris Sarandon,
Hmm.
who I constantly forget how many horror movies he's actually in, should be in consideration always as one of the best main vampires in horror history. His swagger and charm, mixed with wit and eventual menace, is one of my main reasons in always revisiting the film. I gotta say, if Chris Sarandon and John Saxon ever did a film together, fucking boner
Hmm.
for 2 hours, dude. But the other is Stephen Jeffries' Evil Ed, who is essentially the jester of the film and the absolute highlight of the entire film. He's arguably the best Renfield-like character, maybe only second to Tom Waits' performance in Bram Stoker's Dracula. Lastly, the soundtrack for this film is pure 80s fun. The main theme by the Jay Giles Band is an earworm. Then you have low budget Sunset Strip hair metal and autograph to the weirdness of Devo and Sparks. I always forget that you got Devo in this. While not
Hmm.
packing heavy hitters of that time, it definitely time capsules the rock and new wave of LA of 1985. If Child's Play didn't exist, this would absolutely be Tom Holland's best work. I give this a 7 out of 10. The sequel sucks, and the remake is surprisingly really great despite taking a much different tonal approach. So, Ren, you're not welcome back on the show for talking about the sequel. No, I'm just kidding. No, obviously Ren's my boy, so I'm surprised he did. I'm actually surprised he didn't like the sequel. So I have to ask him what he didn't
Hmm,
like about it. Maybe he hasn't revisited it in many years, um,
sure.
but no, I definitely agree with all that though. The soundtrack is killer. Like even outside of, the theme song and score, like there's so many just good like just bumping 80 songs and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So nah, I agree with all that. So I guess we can finish up with our ratings. Do you have your number rating out of 10?
It's a 10. I mean, it's I guess I could be more critical over it, but it's hard for me to do that because so my reasoning is yes, I could be more critical and maybe it would drop to a 9 or an 8 if I'm thinking about it in comparison to all films in general. But because this movie brings so much joy to me, it's so rewatchable. I'm never tired of it. I I can't knock it for anything else than what it is. So it just makes it a 10 for me because of the first viewing that I ever saw and how how surprised I was with it, and I mean it became my favorite vampire film. You know, Lost Boys would have been my favorite, and it jumped ahead of Lost Boys, which I feel like it's hard to have a childhood film get beat by something else, you know.
Yeah.
Um and it did that for me. So, and it's no knock again. I mean, they're so close. Like it's if Fright Night is a 10 and I have to grade Lost Boys, like Lost Boys is a 9.9, so like it's hard for me to say like it's way better, but yeah, Fright Night is just it's something about it. It's just my absolute favorite vampire film. So 10 out of 10.
No, hell yeah. No, and I definitely understand. Like I could definitely see liking this film more. And one of the things that makes it stand out above Lost Boys, and Lost Boys is my favorite, is the technical main character of the film. And this one is like one of the few that is actually interesting. Like,
Mm,
of course, Sam is interesting in Lost Boys, but technically the main character is Michael, who's a boring, fucking annoying shitbag.
mm,
And then same thing
yeah.
with like, and then go to Near Dark, like I said, that main character is fucking annoying. Go to Dracula. Fucking John Harker Harker is supposed to be the main character.
Mm,
Technically, like everything's happening to him because of him, and he sucks. Everybody watches the movie because of Dracula and everything else. So it's like a lot of these vampire films, the great part of them aren't the main characters. 30 Days a Night, I
mm,
love that vampire film, but I just love the craziness and uniqueness of the vampires.
mm,
Um, One of the only few other ones that actually like the main characters is like Let the Right One In, maybe, and stuff like
yeah.
that. But for the most part, it's always like a side character that really sticks out. Like people, when they talk about the Lost Boys, talk about the Frog Brothers or, this and that.
Hmm.
But with this movie, I mean, and people do talk about like Evil Ed, but
Sure.
like we talked about for the entire podcast pretty much is how much we can relate to William Ragsdale's character and how much he's like, or just
Hmm.
Brewster in general and how likable he is. So I definitely say that that's one thing that puts this slightly, but like that's the one thing that I think this edges out the Lost Boys on is that like that
Hmm.
main character and stuff like that, and actually being able to like ride with them through the whole movie and not be like fuck it, who cares if they die,
Yeah.
type thing. But
Oh,
uh
100%.
but of course, Lost Boys is still my favorite just because I grew up on it, and it's one of those that
Sure.
like if I watched it nowadays and it didn't feel as strongly about it as I used to, it'd be one thing. But like every time I watch that film, I still just feel the same about it. But uh,
Mm.
for me, I'd have to go 8.5 for Fright Night, and it's only because I'd knock it a whole point because of Amanda Beers, just because it's like literally like kind of it's like takes away from it when she's like
Sure.
it's not all the time, but it's those scenes when she is like Charlie, it's
Hmm.
it just takes me out of it slightly. And then of course like it's not that it necessarily ruins certain moments for me, but when watching it and trying to think of it critically, sometimes I'm like if it was a stronger actress in this moment, it could have elevated it even more. You know what I mean? So
I gotcha.
it's not about like what it is being bad. It's about what it could be. You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, so drop it down in a point for that, and then the point five is just for the little bit of dragging because it doesn't drag enough to like lose a whole point because it doesn't drag that hard.
Hmm.
But there's just a few like very slight trimming that can be done, and that's something that even like I'm sure Tom, this is early in Tom Holland's career. You know what I mean? So I'm sure nowadays it might be something where he would trim it up even more, but. Who knows? It's weird because like some of these old directors, you're like, dude, they were so good in their youth, and now they suck. So it's
Hmm.
like for
Sure.
instance, like I was just thinking today, like, why isn't somebody just giving free reign to Dario Argento? It's like, oh yeah, because he hasn't made a good movie in 20 fucking
Hmm.
years, and it's
Oh,
like
sure.
John Carpenter, same thing. Why aren't they just feeding him money to make movies? Oh yeah, because the last few he made were fucking trash, and it's like. How do you not get better at your craft? Instead, it's like,
Hmm.
and then, because in my opinion, right now, if somebody was like, John Carpenter's making a movie, everybody's gonna go see it. But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like if the trailer comes out and it looks anything like The Ward or Ghost of Mars, people might be like,
Yeah. One fun thing I feel like is cool to share about Fright Night is uh because you talked about like the poster being so iconic.
yeah,
Um and we had Penelope on the show and we talked about horror and I don't know if we talked about it on that episode. But when she was little, she was obsessed with my Fright Night, DVD box.
fuck
Like obsessed with the cover art and would be like, "Can you just show me the scene with that girl with all the teeth?" So
yeah,
I just think it's really, really cool because there's been 80s stuff that I've shown Penelope that she's like, that's cheesy, that looks dorky or corny, because she's a different generation but even Fright Night still like it like to a kid, like she's like, what is that? So I think
yeah,
that's rad that can, like you said, it's been what is it, 40 years, right?
yeah,
Or
yeah. 40
so
years of
it's
August, as of August 2nd, I think.
yeah, so it's crazy that a film like that, just an 80s film, could still hold so much like visual presence to people that, wouldn't know what it is.
Yeah.
So,
No, my
yeah.
wife last night, I think that was her first time seeing it, and like she didn't have any interest in watching it. I just like was watching it with
Hmm.
Ari, and like she was downstairs taking a shower or whatever, and she came up and like started watching it like as like and that's one thing about the film is it starts like immediately, but
Yeah.
you can you can kind of come in like within 45 minutes and realize, oh, these characters have this relationship, and this is where the story's going. Okay, and like not lose too much, and she immediately like was like, I like this, and like watched
Yeah.
the rest of it and was like, I really like this. And then like when I was watching Fright Night Part, I fell asleep watching Fright Night Part 2 last night, so I finished like the last 30 minutes today. And again, she was
Mm.
watching it and she was like, I really like these films. And it's and that's from like a non-horror
Mhm.
fan, just
Oh yeah, it's this movie is one of the most recommended horror films that I suggest to people that are especially like dipping their toes more into horror, but also like don't want to see anything extreme.
yeah,
I'm like, watch Fright Night. If you like 80s film, it's not too scary. There's some gruesome scenes, but it's not like so much that you're going to be shocked by it. And yeah, like I said, it just has a lot of heart. And everybody that I've suggested, they're like, I really like that one, and it's
yeah.
a cool one that's, everybody knows Lost Boys, so that's, most people have seen that. But so this is a good one to suggest to anybody that wants something a little different, maybe. So,
Especially this time of year when people that because like I get people all the time that are asking me about horror movies and they do watch like Terrifier and stuff, but they don't watch
mhm.
like but they'll watch Terrifier, but they've never seen, but they don't know what anthropophagus is. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
and I say that because I just mean like they'll watch gory ass shit, but or
yeah.
like they'll watch as scary as they can, but they're still only watching like the main stuff. So
Hmm.
it's like I might give you something obscure and you'll watch it and be like, that wasn't that scary, and I'm like, yeah, but to me it was scary for what it was. You know what I mean? So like
Hmm.
I always have like that issue to where I feel like Fright Night is perfect for this time of year because right now is when you get
Hmm.
all the people that are like that only like enjoy horror during like spooky season and stuff. And this is the perfect movie for those type of people because it does have like a few scary moments. The effects make the vampires actually scary looking. So you have that
Yep.
little bit of creepiness, but it also just has like an ominous vibe that feels very fallish. And so it like
Yeah.
if it's spooky season and it's perfect, like it's not gonna scare anybody out of their boots. So no, I agree. This is a
Hmm.
perfect recommendation, especially this time of year when you got all the people asking that don't watch it year round and stuff and indulge that much in this stuff. So but hell yeah, do you have any other comments you wanna about the film or anything before we wrap it up?
Um, yeah, my only other comment, and this is more like this isn't meant to be like a brag or anything, but I think it's cool for it being my favorite vampire film. Uh, and we did the Toxic Coffin drop. I got the chance to meet William Ragsdale at one of the conventions we did in Richmond. he came to our booth and he's like, I was seeing so many people wearing your shirts. He's like, I had to ask where it was, and he came and he talked to me, uh, gave me a big hug. It bought a shirt from us, which I was just like, dude, just let me give you a shirt, please. And I've seen him since then, like sharing, like wearing it at like conventions and stuff like that. And so that's like insanely touching to to make some art for one of my absolute favorite films, and then the dude is wearing it. So
Yeah.
I just love that. I feel like the universe is really cool in that regard. And even Julie Carmen sneakily bought a Fright Night 2 shirt without us knowing. She bought, I guess she's a yoga instructor, and bought one of the shirts. And so we sent her a nice message and, like thanked her and asked her if she needed any more. And she was just like, she just straight up told us like, I'm just so happy that people seem to like this one, and that it hasn't been completely forgotten, which I was like, I thought that was the sweetest thing, to hear her say like she's just happy that people are like still like the movie that she was in. And so I don't know, it made me feel so I guess grateful that it's like you look at people that are actors and you think like, oh yeah, I'll never connect with these people or anything, and they're just humans like the rest of us, and for them to be kind and share like gratitude in that regard, like to me that just felt cool, and just also just makes me love the franchise even further. So yeah, anyways, just fun little factoid, if you will. But yeah.
Oh yeah. No, it's always awesome when there are like actually good people, which I mean, most people that run
Yeah,
the convention circuit are, because they have to be in front of people so much. It's hard to be
sure.
a
Yeah.
shitbag and do it. But no, definitely. And Julie Carmen's like not even doing the convention circuit, just saw it online and bought it.
Mm.
So no, hell yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I was kind of blown away. So,
No, fuck yeah. No, and she always she'll like randomly post like portraits from the film, like
hmm
with like just like behind the scenes people and stuff. So she definitely, you could tell she like enjoyed her time like filming it and stuff, even if she doesn't like talk about it and stuff all the time nowadays.
sure.
But no, hell yeah. But of course, I appreciate you for joining me. If you're watching or listening, just make sure, you for anybody that's watching or listening, just make sure you leave a like, subscribe, rating, comment. Let us know what you think of Fright Night, even Fright Night Part
hmm
2, if you even knew about it, as well as,
hmm
the remake and stuff. But hell yeah, man, I appreciate you, and we'll be back at it soon with Ernest Scared Stupid after my interview with Dan Crowley next week. So,
Oh yeah, I can't wait to talk about that movie too.
oh
So,
yeah.
yeah, it was fun, dude.